So the definition of context are circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or an idea in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. The parts of something written or spoken that immediately precede and follow a word or passage and clarify its meaning. So synonyms: conditions, circumstances, background, settings, process, etc. And you saw a 4-minute clip of a process, me creating something from start to finish. And when I collect artists and I talk to artists, business people, the one thing I look for, and it's where you get the best answers, is it's not about, oh my God, how'd you start something like that? Or how'd you start that business? Or that's beautiful, or it's so successful. To me, I always ask, what was that process like? And you always get the best answers. I mean, artists at my exhibitions, someone comes up and they go, well, what does that mean? Well, it's abstract. I can't tell you what it means, but it was just a moment for me. But anyone that says, well, what was that process? I'll stand and talk to that person 15 minutes, because explaining that process to me means more than anything. And so in context, the definition of context, it's about the process. It's about the journey. It's about the experiences. And so I'll go through a little bit of my life and my NBA career, my college time, my art career, my retirement, my children, and then I also go through what's next for me. And all of that information is my context of my journey. And I think people lose sight of that. I think everybody loses sight of that. In business, they also lose sight. That's 5,000. In business, in business, I think everybody loses sight of what the journey's like in the context of their life. And those experiences really breed success if you can put them in play. So I was born in Waxahachie, Texas, East Side. Yep, I know, big old Waxahachie, fast food nation. I was born in Waxahachie, Texas, but I grew up in the country, a place called Five Points, really outside of Waxahachie. I moved into the town. And when I was 3 years old, I was burned. A car pulled up next to my dad's car. His car was overheating. My dad said, you know, old school, you flip the little thing and get a rag and let a little bit of pressure off of it before you take it off. Nope, he flipped it, took it off, pressure, shot antifreeze and all kinds of hot fluid over into the car where I was sleeping in the back seat and just burned my legs. Well, we went to the hospital, 8 months total, 3 months of rehab, and the doctor told my parents I would never be able to run. I always have issues walking. And that was my parents. My mom was 16 when I was born, so she was 19 at the time. My dad was 20 at the time. So you can imagine, first kid, my dad's my boy, he's an athlete, never be able to run again. By the age of 5, I was playing football. From there, I went on, you know, you deal with your experiences with kids, you know, and I got thick skin. I mean, literally, now I do. But you got your experiences with the kids, and I learned to take things and just let it roll off of me, because at that time, I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street was a pretty hot movie. So, like, Freddy Krueger, I heard that more than you could possibly imagine. I was self-conscious. I played sports. I ran track. I wore the long tights. I was the only one wearing the long tights. I was trying to hide it. But that was part of my early childhood process. Fast forward to when I was 10, my dad became one of the largest drug dealers from South Dallas to Waco. Got indicted. They had video footage, all kinds of things, had undercovers. And when they sentenced him to 48 years in prison. And I'm like, I'm never gonna see my dad again. He went to jail in Nacogdoches, then they moved him to Sweetwater. Jails were overcrowded. First major offense. He got out after 10 years hard probation. But during that time, those 3 years, I went through a life-changing situation. I became the father figure of my family. My mom was working 12-hour shifts at a nursing home. I was shooting craps in the park trying to make money for hot links and chopped beef sandwiches for my brother and sister. I was failing out of basketball. I was running the streets with all the drug dealers. That became another part of my life. And as he talked about with art kind of saved me from that. When I knew things had to change is when I'm sitting on a bike rack with a buddy of mine at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had a big rival with the town close by, Ennis, Texas. And a guy pulls up in a Cutlass, just comes flying down the street, and we knew we got a problem because he's flying and he clicks the lights off. And he gets right up on us and slams on the brakes. I'm 12, out the passenger door, big old 45, And he just looks at us, back in, rolls the windows up, they laugh, and they drive off. It was funny. And we recognized him, they're Ennis boys. So I knew then things had to change. And that's when one sports clicked in for me to get off my side of town to go do something, YMCA membership. I got a chance to get a YMCA membership, but then also art, because my friends were artists. They were skateboarders. So I learned to skateboard. I fell quite a bit, but I learned to skateboard. And while being around the skateboard guys, art kicked in. And so what I first started doing was ceramics at the age of 11, 12, crossover. I started making pottery, and we all thought it was girly. My buddies thought it was girly. Ew, you're making vases. And so after that, I started learning how to draw and paint, and then I just progressed through high school. But that was a process and a journey kind of in my early adulthood. As I went through high school, my dad gets out of prison. We slowly start progressing toward, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do something with our life. You're going to be somebody. He moved away from the bad side of town, the east side is what we call it, and said, here's our rule. A's and B's, or you're grounded. No question. That's 9 weeks between report cards. It happened one time, and it never happened again until I got to college. And so we go through, I get the opportunity to go play at Oklahoma State University, and I love to tell this story. Coach Sutton, I mean, if anybody knows Coach Sutton, he's my favorite coach of all time, NBA, high school. He is my favorite coach of all time, and he had all these old school sayings. He was an old school coach. But I come in as a freshman, and I was the number one recruit in our class. We had a great recruiting class, but he would not let up on me. I could have 30, and it wasn't good enough. He just kept pushing. So I dropped below a 3.0, and I'm living off campus, which is probably the first mistake. And I get a knock on my door, and my dad, the rule said I had a 72 Nova. I bought it for $600. And so I got my Nova, and I get the knock on the door, and I open the door, and it's my dad standing there. And he goes, hey, boy. I said, hey, what's up? I said, what you doing here? We got to talk. I said, okay. So he comes in, and he goes, I got your progress report. I go, yeah. We're a little bit below that 3.0 we talked about. I said, I know. He said, I'll be back. He comes back. He pulls his truck around, and it's a trailer on it. And he said, where them keys? I just shook my head. He did not only just take my car, he made me drive it up on the trailer. And he left me with a bike, my mountain bike from high school, and somebody stole it like the next week. So I had to walk to school from off campus. And that was a process and a journey for me. Basketball was everything in college, and Coach Sutton was part of that journey and part of that process. But those moments helped create what's standing here today. It was people like Coach Sutton and Randy Carlisle, my dad, and all the East Side boys, and all that, my mom and my siblings, all those people helped create me up into that moment. In 2000, I was one of those kids that worked really hard. I played hard. I gave everything I could. And once I got done, I had 2 bad games. One was Bedlam on my senior night. We got beat at home. And then losing to Florida in the NCAA tournament in the Elite 8. You know, I'll never forget those moments. But after that, it kind of was my coming out party from a basketball standpoint. And I got an agent, which that process was crazy. I didn't know how to deal with it. I'm a small town guy. Coach Sutton was very instrumental in helping me find the right people. No one believed that I could play in the NBA. I was not on anybody's draft board. And my agent goes, we're going to keep working. So that summer I worked out for 16 teams. And if anybody knows anything about the draft, that's a lot of teams. It was the most workouts in my whole entire draft class. And even still, they didn't believe. David Stern called my agent and goes, well, I hear you want your guy to come to the green room in New York, but I don't know where you got your information from. He's not getting drafted that high. And so we had a barbecue in Fort Worth, Texas at my agent's house for my draft party. And I remember playing video games because I was so nervous upstairs. I wouldn't come down and watch it. And all of a sudden, I hear, are you kidding me? And I peeked down. I said, what? He goes, Sacramento took Hito Turkoglu. They were supposed to take you. And the next pick, I heard my agent's phone ring. And he walks up and he goes, it's the Seattle Supersonics. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. I said, what pick are they at? He said, 17. I said, what? He said, there's still 5 people in the green room. You should have been in New York. He's like, but we're here with our family. And so I remember getting on the phone, and it was Paul Westphal. And he goes, Desmond, welcome to Seattle. And I can hear downstairs David Stern come out and say my name. And it was one of the most amazing, amazing feelings. But I just reflect on everything that got me to that point. The drugs, being burned, the guns, the violence, trying to get out, trying to find ways. All that journey and all that process and all those conditions got me to that moment. 10 years in the NBA was an amazing career. I had so many ups and downs. You know, I watch these guys play now. You know, you look at Houston and you look at Abrinas, and everyone wants to talk about these guys. And I'm very critical because I played the game. But you look at those guys, and I say, you look at Abrinas, I know what it's like to be a young guy in the NBA. I know what Houston is going through. You know, I know some of the struggles that Andre Roberson's going through. I've been there. I know what it's like. You know, I've had great years, I've had bad years, I've shot the ball well, and I haven't. But that's a process in the journey that those guys are going to be able to take those emotions and reflect on it down the road and use it in real life when the ball stops bouncing. Because it's a short-lived career, and you're under a microscope. But they'll be able to take those. If they can embrace it, they can take that and utilize it and put it within their lives. So my journey was great. Having kids during my playing years was probably the hardest thing to do. My children are the reason I retired from basketball. I was 100% healthy. I walked away from 2 NBA contracts, 8 European contracts, but being able to be engaged in my kids' life was much more important than bouncing the ball. I had a great 10-year career, but for me, it was time to hang it up. And I knew art was something that was next for me, which is what people know me for now. The art world doesn't care about basketball or any sports in general. Trust me. It's all about how much paint you got under your nails and if you got black mohawks. Like, I mean, it's really, they don't care about that. So I really threw myself into art, and all those experiences from growing up to sports to talking to business people to spending time to speaking to groups like this, I utilized that in the world of art as well. And so fast forwarding to just this past week, I've had the opportunity in my 4th Miami Art Basel, to participate in my 4th Miami Art Basel with 4 shows. Harry Winston became my partner. The Mandarin Oriental became my partner. And it was because I took those experiences and I utilized them in today's world for me. I took all that anger, all that drive, all that emotion, and I just threw it into my art to not just only create, but to speak to people with confidence. To sit in the room and go, listen, I put one leg at a time. I tie mine just like you tie yours. You may have better shoes, but I tie mine the same way. And if you can sit down and you can talk to those people with confidence, you can get some things accomplished. Because the one thing I've learned with business people is speaking to those people, they're trying to see if you're confident. Now, if you can get in the door and you got a product that's good or you got good artwork, then it speaks for itself. But I remember talking to Howard Schultz, and he looked me in my face, the founder of Starbucks. Best conversation I've ever had, worst outcome. He invited me to his house. So I'm sitting down, and I'm just like, oh, man, they just opened. I'm telling myself, man, they just opened Krispy Kreme in Issaquah, Washington. Like, the line is 2 hours outside. It's crazy. And Starbucks pastries suck. Those little cranberry things they used to have back in the day, but the coffee was good. So I told Howard, I said, Howard, and I'm like, can I tell you something? And he's the nicest guy, but he's a guy that just looks you right in the eye, to that uncomfortable look, where you kind of gotta I need a break. I need a break from you staring at me. So he's that guy, and I go, Howard, I gotta say this, man, your coffee's amazing. I love coffee. I love your coffee. I think it's great. They just bought Tirfazioni. Like, they have some amazing coffee. I said, but, you know, as a client, as a patron of the shop, the food isn't that good. The pastries isn't that good. I say, but if you partner with Krispy Kreme, do you understand how much money you can make? He looked at me like I lost my mind. He goes, okay, Desmond, okay. Anyway, moved on. And then they started doing good food, so I take all the credit for that. Somebody had to call Howard out, so I called him out. I'm like, listen, I'm tired of the cranberry triangles. They're terrible. Give me a biscuit or something. So, like, just again, all those experiences, sitting down with people like that, I learned so much. And so I've taken that, and I've just thrown it into my art. I've thrown it into my business. And the one thing I can tell you is the journey and the process, everything that you go through, if we all can just take that and utilize it, whether it be just in your home. For me, it's with my kids. I raised my kids the way I was raised. You know, we still do it old school. Like when you come home, them your school clothes, take them off, get your play clothes on, and go outside. Get out in front of the TV, put the phone up, put the iPad up. There's a trampoline out there. Go fall and break something. Like do something. You know, we don't just sit around. And so I treat them the way I was treated growing up. I raised them the way I was raised. And I think that's going to be really beneficial because it's going to be part of their journey. When I speak to people, I speak to them from the heart. I have no problem with telling my story. I'm proud of what's happened in my life. There was some pain at times, but I'm proud of what's happened because it's allowed me to be the person I am today. And when I sit down with anybody in business, you know, it's all about confidence. I say this all the time. One, with my kids, my dad said, if you do what you're supposed to do, you can do what you want to do. That was it. It was very simple. You clean your room? Nope. Go clean your room. Can't go play. You clean your room? Yes, sir. Go ahead. It's fine. As long as you don't kill yourself, you know, go have some fun. Go do your thing. In business, they can only say yes, and they can only say no. And I'm okay with no's. I say no to people all the time. But they can only say yes, and they can only say no. So that confidence sitting down is something that's very important to me as well. So the one message, if I had to leave any message, and I can't wait for the Q&As, and I could do this all day long because it's just I like to have fun and I like to speak. But the one message I would say to everybody that's sitting in here, whether it's your personal life, your home life, your relationships, your marriages, business, your vision for life, I got a long way to go. I feel like I have the ability to do great things, but I'm confident like that. I truly believe it, and I'm not saying that with arrogance. I say that with confidence, that I think that I have something special to offer this world artistically. Basketball is over for me. I could care less to bounce a ball, but I paint every single day. I love it. And so if I had to say something to you guys, something to take in any part of your life is take some time every once in a while and just reflect on how you got to where you are. We're sitting in this room now. There's a lot of things that's happened to get you sitting here in this room right now. And I would say take some time to reflect on that part of your life and try to find ways to utilize all those experiences in day-to-day, family, relationships, friends, meeting new people, possible businesses, your dreams and your future. But just take some time to reflect on those things and try to utilize it today. The context of my life got me standing here right now. The context of everybody else's life in this room has you sitting here right now. And tomorrow, it's going to be another 24-hour span of more context to get you there. So I really appreciate this. I love this topic because I think it's looked over so much. The journey and everything that we do is the most important. You know, it's the between is what matters most. It's not the beginning, it's not the end. It's the between what matters most. So I'm wide open for Q&As. I'm wide open for answers as well. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. And at the end of the day, for me, this is a blessing and an honor to stand here and do this for the first time. But also, it's a blessing and an honor to do it amongst people that are the reason I came back to Oklahoma. So thank you guys very much for having me. And we got old school, yeah. Oh, well, Hannah.
Was it difficult to get people to take you seriously when you first got into art, or did they only think you as an athlete?
Most people thought I picked up art after, you know, while I was playing or after I retired. But the real answer is, I tell people all the time, is I'm an artist, but basketball just got in the way for 10 years from a professional standpoint. But I've been painting since I was 11. I played all sports, so I hadn't committed to basketball solely. So art was first. And most people don't know that, but it was very, very hard. And to get in the art world, it was very hard. You know, when your art gets to a certain number and from a sales standpoint, it's just like any business, it becomes legitimate. I said to myself, okay, now they're not just buying this because I play basketball anymore. You know, they're becoming collectors and they believe and they like the product. So that became most important to me. But like I said, you go to Miami Basel, they don't care if I play basketball. They're just like, you're an artist? Man, you tall. Like, that's it. That's it. I'm like, yeah, the obvious. Captain Obvious. I know there was one back there, yep.
I wish everybody could have seen what happened when I brought Ebony Inman's art to Martin Luther King this week. And if we could get artists and creative people as mentors in schools like MLK and my old Centennial. That it used to be, if they go to elementary school, being hugged by 6 to 8 kids constantly at the same time. But it would be so wonderful for the creative adults in Oklahoma if we could team up and systematically get a lot of artists and other mentors into our toughest schools. How could we go about doing that? How could we go about creating a system, institutionalize it, where we bring our diversity of our community into our most challenging schools?
First thing I'll say is I think we all, if we're not in agreement, we need to do a little bit more research, is the arts in general are dying in schools, especially public schools. It's the first thing to go. I remember having music class with that little plastic flute thingy. Like, I remember that. I remember all that. I love going to, like, sitting in the Kiva and everybody sitting in this little auditorium and we just all doing our little thing. But, you know, now my daughter plays the ukulele. I'm like, who gives a ukulele in school nowadays? But, you know, it's the arts are dying in schools, and I agree. You know, we got to find ways to get it back in front of kids. It's the next generation of creative people. You know, even if you have an iPhone and an iPad or whatever, you still got to be creative. You know, and I had this challenge with David Stern when he was the commissioner of the NBA. Is I challenged him to give me something in the game of basketball that's not created by an artistic mind: videography, photography, the court, the chairs, the jerseys, the game in general, the sound, the lights, the arena we play in, the ball design. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I think we just lose sight of how important the arts are in general. And if you look around, I'm dead serious. If you look around, there is art all in this room. I mean, you're wearing it, you're sitting in it, Christmas trees, lights, you know, we tons of it over here, the sound, video, photographers around here. We all got our phones out. Like, those are all designed and created by artistic people. To try to find ways to do that is probably the hardest part, because the adults, as we all know, a lot of adults don't see art as, you can't be successful in it. They kind of pigeonhole what art really is. To them, art is just painting. You know, but it's a broader range of things that are artistic. And I think if we can get that mindset, then it'd be much easier to implement it in our schools. We don't necessarily need to just bring a painting in. You know, talk to the kids about something that they do. I talk on their level. You know, music. Music is probably the big one. Their phones, TV shows they watch, you know, actors, actresses, dancers. You know, you got to start implementing things like that, because kids sometimes don't understand art, the visual side of it, the painting side. But if you can put something in their world that they understand, you can slowly start to ease them toward that. But as adults, we got to take some initiative as well. So it's much bigger than this conversation, trust me when I say that. But, you know, it's one by one. It's getting that artwork in front of those kids. You know, I think that's the first step. But it's you know, this is generational right now. You know, art is becoming a dinosaur. But at the end of the day, I think it's never going to go away, because you're going to need those minds. We just need to find ways to make sure our kids have the opportunity to be kids, and that's draw, paint, be silly. You know, my daughter gets her phone and she makes little phone movies all the time. I can't stand the phone thing. Like, it's just, they're obsessed with it. But if she's making little movies, she's being creative, and I'm okay with that. Don't tell me this is one of those high school classes where nobody raises their hand. Right here, and then I'll come back.
Right, so how would you describe your style of art, and how all the context you talk about influences that style, how that comes out?
My style of art now is abstract expressionism. I'm full-blown abstract for the most part. I slide in and out of different styles of work depending on the exhibitions I'm putting together. But that style is, I always say this is another saying I have, it's like my favorite hashtag. You know, that's like, I hashtag it all the time: evolve or dissolve. So as an artist, I evolved over time. I was a hyper-realist for a very long time. It's what you learn in school. You know, you're drawing on grids, black and white. You know, that's kind of what I did for the longest time. And I watched the movie Pollock for the first time. And I went out and got a roll of canvas and a bunch of house paint and destroyed my backyard in Seattle. I was flinging paint all over the place. And that was my first experience with abstract. And so I slowly started to move toward abstract work. You know, I went into hyperrealism and loose figurative stuff, and, you know, and then I slowly got more abstract. But now when I go into my studio, I utilize all the emotion and those experiences in past, present, things I have, you know, I want to do in the future, things that are surrounding me, my kids, my wife. I look at those things and I try to draw inspiration from them. So my next body of work is my show. It's gonna be. I'm excited because it's gonna be in Oklahoma City, and it's been 4 years since I had a solo show here. It's called My Love Show, and it's literally just based around my family and the people I love most, and I've created this body of work based off of that. So all those experiences and the journeys and the ones that come, I throw into my work because abstract is so emotional.
So the state, people can have different effects on outcomes outside of their normal realm. What do you think is going on with the state, and how would you say that you feel like you could help improve certain parts of maybe how the state's going that you feel could be better?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. One, let's just go state from a political standpoint, and then we'll go state in general. I'm not into politics. I just look and see what's needed, how can I help, what's not being done, and I'll leave it up to the people that's making those decisions. And with my fingers crossed, I hope they make the right decisions. That's where I stand with that. As it pertains to the state as a whole, Oklahoma City, the state of Oklahoma, I was just in Tulsa as well. And then some of the smaller towns I go speak around, there's 100,000 small towns in Oklahoma. I mean, it is crazy, all these little towns with these funny names. It's like Texas, West Texas. But I get to go speak to these kids, and, it's kind of how big are your feet? You're so tall. But when I start talking to them about art, you should see them light up. When I sit down and draw and paint with them, you should see them light up. And I think continuing to do things like this and how people speak and continue to have people get involved, as we were talking about earlier, I think is number one. I think Oklahoma City is doing a great job with a lot of the murals that are going up now, and the Plaza and Paseo, and all these mural challenges and all these exhibitions that have 21C. It's progressive. It's contemporary. It's you see that penguin. I mean, it's weird, but all the buffaloes that are around, the artists that have done the buffaloes, and I had the very fortunate opportunity to do one of those as well. I mean, that means something. That allows Oklahoma City to progress. The Thunder have helped that process. That huge monstrosity of a building in Devon Tower has that whole process, just creating that process. It's about growth and progression, and I think everyone's doing their part to help Oklahoma City progress into the next level, and that's culturally. That's the arts. I mean, the arts drives every major city. It has an artistic vibe to it, and so I think the city is doing a great job at progressing in Oklahoma City. I was just in Tulsa doing an exhibition. I think Tulsa's doing a great job. And I think the smaller towns will come around because the cities will start to grow outside. And I think we're starting to see that. You get on 35 and you're starting to see it, this kind of growth. And I think that's what's going to allow the city to continue to grow culturally.
Explain the balance between producing art and being an entrepreneur, like a business person. What does that look like, that balance?
It's hard. That's the hardest part for me. You need to be creative, but you have to be organized. You have to be put together. And my wife, she coached for almost 12 years, and she retired from coaching to help me with that part because artists are the most unorganized people. I am so unorganized, it's ridiculous. But you get me in my studio, it's a catastrophe. But I know where everything's at in my studio. It drives her nuts when she steps in the studio. But I'm like, listen, my studio. Your office, my studio. And so you need to have that healthy balance, but progressing in work, like pricing your work, if you're an artist, pricing a painting it's virtually impossible because most artists underprice their work. I've learned this over time. So I've met with people and talked to people, and you finally just come up with a formula, at least I did, on how to do it, and it makes life easy because I don't want to have to go to this guy and go, that's like 2,000. That's like 7,000. Oh, that's like 500. And so one day they're going to cross each other. How much you pay for that? 500? What? I paid 7,000 for mine. Now you're starting to have an issue with that. So what I say in how I do my business, you have to come to a point where you got some structure around what you do. And I think that helps business grow. It helps you balance the entrepreneur side and the art side. So, all these East Coast guys I do work with, they call themselves entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs. That's what they call themselves. And so for me, when I price my work now, let's just based off a price, it's width times length times $4. That's it. Super simple. So a 48 by 48 is always a 48 by 48. Now, if I'm using a lot of oil, I'll let my client know ahead of time if that's what they want, if it's a commission, but my prices are fairly set by that. Charitable events, they shift. Repeat clients, they shift. Replete kinds is by $3 or by $2.50. So I start to find ways where I don't have to sit here and dig in my brain to do the business side of artwork. And artists nowadays, it's all about being a businessman or woman. I mean, it is it. It's taking art and putting it on leggings and shoes and collaborations and partnership business deals. And now, for us, our art brand is expanding out. Like that bottle right there, and I don't do the plug things, but just like that bottle, a company asked me, hey, would you design a label for us? And they had, they make it look like a racetrack. I mean, I'm telling you, there's so much stuff on those bottles. But I said, yeah, I'll help you. I'll consult on a design. There's a company based out of Lithuania. And they go, well, how much is the fee? No fee, 10% of the company. They were a startup company. And they talked about it, and they gave it to me. And I said, it's 10% of the company. And they're building it to sell. Hopefully it sells to like Coca-Cola or one of the major brands. But, I use art to leverage that opportunity. And that was the business side. That was me utilizing the business side because I've learned over time. But, little things like that, that's where art is going. But to balance that it's very hard. It takes a while to get it done. We do like another one, one more? Go ahead. Well, we do both the numbers, okay? I'll make the answers quick.
Are you sure?
Yes, possible.
So when you're playing ball, you practice before a game and you watch film after a game. So when you're doing art, what do you do to get better and grow and learn new techniques?
First thing, well, the technique is just kind of staying in the studio. As an artist, you want to find something new. We all draw from somebody else. Michael Jordan, players, we play sticking our tongue out with the baggy jeans and the short socks. We cut our head bald. And so when you're in the art world, though, if you do something like Andy Warhol, they'll go, oh, you're copying Andy Warhol. Well, yeah, he's one of the best to do what he did. He's one of the most aggressive. Why wouldn't you do that? I'm not saying just copy his work flat out, but use some of his techniques. So that's just staying in the studio and trying to create your own. My biggest challenge that I've gotten so much better, and I think it's really helped my work, is learning when to stop. When I feel like I'm done, I just turn the painting around and face the other direction. I get it out of my studio so I don't think around with it, or I don't want to use that visual for the next piece. Maybe I want to go in a different direction, but I find ways to get it away from me, and I think that's helped me as well. Derek, this will be the last question, though.
Thinking about your brand, and earlier you mentioned that you're not even close to being done. You have so much more stuff you want to do. What's some of the bigger projects, maybe different directions you plan on going? Yeah.
Well, Birchwater is one. I mean, that was a big one for me. It was my first, step into that world. And we've already, we just got 120,000 cases that came across from Asia, and it's in Houston, and now we're doing the distribution process of things. So that was one of the big ones. It wasn't something I was looking for, but now it's something I'm kind of ingrained in. Continuing to create relationships with collaboration companies. I've done Nike, I've done Adidas, I've done Louis Vuitton, and we're trying to grow that as well. Partnerships with the Mandarin Oriental International. So I do, we're doing Paris Fashion Week. I'm doing an exhibition in Paris, doing Fashion Week. Just done Miami Basel. We're doing Vegas. And I spent all of 2017 putting together an exhibition, international push. And so we finally closed some deals. We're doing, Rome, Madrid, Barcelona, Malaga, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, London, the Bahamas, Mexico in 2018, 2019. So that's been international's been my biggest push, which is why I'm so excited to have a show here in Oklahoma now, because I've pushed so hard to make myself known as an Oklahoma artist, Texas kid, Oklahoma artist. This is where I'm doing my work from. But I'm so happy now to bring that back and be able to bring everything that's happened over the last year to the city as well. The people, the relationships, they're all coming to town and they're all going to support. So I'm excited about that as well. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.